This year, CNN is shining a light on the darkness of slavery in the modern world with our Freedom Project. It's an initiative we've launched to help expose an inhumane trade that continues even in the 21st century. Now, we know it's not a problem we can solve with our coverage alone, but we hope to put it firmly in the spotlight with stories and interviews you won't see anywhere else, and perhaps motivate people and governments to take action. Recently, the FBI named Atlanta, where we are, as one of the 14 cities in the U.S. with the highest incidence of children used in prostitution. According to the state, more than 400 adolescent girls are being exploited each month in Georgia on the streets, through escort services, at hotels and online. Research also shows that every day an estimated 300 men are purchasing sex from adolescent girls in Georgia, both knowingly and unknowingly. The U.S. justice system is trying to tackle that problem one trafficker at a time. Rafael Roma tells us about one man who's been put behind bars. He tells us the trafficker made a career of bringing underage Mexican girls across the border to live through unspeakable horrors.
By the time Amador Cortez Mesa gets out of jail, he will be 76 years old. The Mexican national was sentenced to 40 years in prison after being convicted of forcing into prostitution young girls he smuggled from Mexico to Atlanta.
He was the head of a human trafficking ring that brought 10 young women here from Mexico on the promise of love and marriage and coming here for a better life. And after he tricked the women into coming here, he then forced them into prostitution.
According to U.S. Attorney Sally Yates, some of the victims were as young as 14 years old and were held as slaves. They were forced to have sex with dozens of men every night in locations around the Atlanta area.
In fact, the first night that they were here, these young girls were forced to have sex with over 20 men each. There were some nights it would be as many as 40.
9 of the victims testified in court against Cortez Mesa. One of them testified that Cortez Mesa would say that he would take it out on her mother if she tried to escape. Authorities say the level of cruelty against the victims is hard to describe.
Daily beatings to remind them that they needed to stay in line. Atrocities hard to believe they occur here in the United States.
This case, tried here in the federal court building in Atlanta, is an example of how human trafficking crosses borders. The victims were recruited in Mexico by Mexican traffickers, were brought illegally to the United States, and offered to American and also foreign customers.
It used to be that sex tourism was something that you thought of, like, for example, in Thailand. Well, now people are coming here to have sex with young children.
In addition to Cortez Mesa, 5 other members of his ring, including a brother and 2 nephews, pleaded guilty to similar charges. They were all given sentences ranging from 10 to 20 years. Rafael Romo, CNN Atlanta.
Well, Rafael also tells us the women and girls involved in that case were given temporary asylum in the United States. A U.S. law passed in the year 2000 allows them to now apply for permanent residency. Well, the Georgia State Legislature is working on tougher penalties for these types of crimes. A proposed law would deal out up to 30 years in prison and a $100,000 fine for victimizing someone under 16 years old. It would also prohibit defense by blood relations, such as a father selling a daughter. That bill easily passed the State House, and it's now headed to the Senate.